action. Welcome to the Millennial Experience podcast.
And happy summer
featuring-
solstice, everyone.
Happy summer solstice. My name is Luke Adamson,
And I'm Eddie Ambriz.
and we're going to take you on a sultry, soothing adventure through this millennium.
That's right. Bro, you know what I was thinking?
What?
We should take, okay, so today's the summer solstice, longest day of the year, the largest arc that the sun makes across the sky. I think it'd be really important to make sure we emphasize this holiday because not only is it a celestial one that everyone likes, like sort of celestial objects in the sky, but the fact that we would emphasize and celebrate something like the summer solstice, it's something that the whole world can take part in at the same time, kind of like FIFA, but better or bigger.
Whoa.
And yeah, right. At least bigger. And the thing is that it would encourage people to a reminder of where we are in the universe without necessarily having to get through all the mess about talking about it in school. But that it's like, okay, so when people realize, okay, well, you know, have you ever looked into why we're celebrating this holiday? You're going to get to the fact that where we are, at least how our solar system is formed, why we celebrate it, why the sun goes into this large arc. You're going to have to learn about the solar system.
Universal holiday.
Yeah.
That's what's nice about it.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. I think it would help to tie in.
We're bringing it back. We're bringing the summer solstice back. This is, it's going to be the new Christmas.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's celestial holidays, like celestial objects are I think they're easy to celebrate. They're so universally true. You can see them happen. You can measure them. You know, it's kind of undeniable.
Everyone can see them.
Yeah. I mean, including all the cultural holidays, but, you know, being human. I think it's fun to celebrate things. I think it's fun to, like, make something up to celebrate. Like, big or small. Like a small promotion at work or a certificate. Like, make it a point to celebrate it. Like,
and it triggers those dopamine centers in your brain that encourages you to keep achieving and getting together with family and connecting with people. I think it's awesome. The thing I don't like about celebrating things like birthdays or Christmas and stuff is the obligation to, at least the perceived obligation to buy someone a present at a specific date. It feels really forced to me. Like
designed
for
us to go do that.
It seems like it's a marketing ploy. Like it was designed by some chocolate company or some, you know, the video game companies all are getting together each year to capitalize on this holiday that was originally not meant to be anything like this. And
especially since stores didn't exist when the origins of the holiday.
Yeah.
You were making the gifts or just having people over to be together.
That's a different story. Like, I think gift giving is great in a sense of, like, if I was at the store or on shopping online or something and I saw something and I was like, Eddie would really like this. This is something he would like. And I just buy it and give it to you on a random Wednesday.
Right.
That is a meaningful gift because I was
so.
actually thinking about you, saw something that you wanted and got it for you. But when it's like, when your birthday's coming up,
it's like, here we
you're
go
like,
again.
Oh, his birthday's coming up. I've got to suddenly try to come up with something to give him on that day or he's going to be upset at me. That feels like you're kind of losing whatever was important about celebrating.
You know what? I agree with you. That's true. I have the random thoughts when I run into things at the store. It's definitely something like I think Luke would like this. And you're right. There's like a certain higher level of genuity with those kinds of gifts because they're also more likely to happen throughout the year, not during this whole like stressful fucking advertisement time they're slamming your face with. You got a fucking this or that's special to you. Like, don't forget, everybody's spending money on this to make sure that they know that you love them.
Valentine's Day is the worst because it's like this one day now you need to finally show the person that you're with that you care about them by buying them something. And all of those chocolate companies are getting together just like,
it's like, make sure you don't get them a shitty piece of plastic. That's just the level of care. Like, and dude, you really do kind of, that's true. It's pressure because whenever you buy the random gifts you find into, where in the case I would say, I think Luke or Chandler would like that little thing could be penny price depending on what level you really want to get it for them, and you really want to see the reaction when they see it. Because for me, that's what I'm waiting for when I buy those gifts. Actually, it's to hand them over. It's not to be like, I don't even know how you would brag about a gift or make yourself feel better. Like, that's how it's been to me. Like, it's true. It's the satisfaction of seeing them like react. That's what I'm always waiting for. That's what's nice about giving gifts.
Yeah, I agree. Have you ever heard about how at some level all altruism, it's that coffee, it's got me tongue tied. All altruism is selfish at some level, because if you really, really get to the root of why you're doing something, like let's say you're working at a soup kitchen, helping the homeless or donating to a charity or something, it's hard to justify that you're only doing that for those people because you want those people to feel better. Because if you really break it down psychologically, you're doing it because making those people happier and healthier or feel better is making you feel good. So the reason that altruism exists is because you're really doing it for yourself. Like you were just saying about gift giving, you're giving the gift because you want to see that you've made them happy, because that makes you feel good. And it's just something that I've heard people talk about that I thought was an interesting idea.
Right. I agree. I guess I wouldn't say it's as selfish, because there's other ways for you to get dopamine out that are easier than going to the store and finding a gift. I think feeling happy about the reaction is more of a way to make sure it continues to happen, because we all like being sociable, I think. And so I think that's a good biological trigger to make sure that like gift giving isn't a drudgery, so that we continue like, for example, I know that I don't buy you the gift because I expect you to make sure you balance out your what you owe me. Like I said, like getting a reaction out of you is what gets a reaction out of me, but I'm not thinking about my reaction when I buy that gift. I'm thinking about your reaction. Yeah. And that's what I'm more conscious about. I'm not going, I can't wait to feel good when I see his reaction. It's like, I'm excited because then you would have to say it's selfish to like try to do anything you would enjoy.
I've heard people argue that it is. That's why I was bringing it up. I think it's an interesting concept. It's got some merit to it, at least. It's worth arguing.
Yeah, I guess because when I think of selfish, I think of something that's like, selfish is something that will happen is more within the context of something bad happening to the other person, not something good happening. And I guess
why would
you
it
could
have
define
to be
it
bad? If the end goal is for you to feel good because making someone else feel good makes you feel good. Otherwise, why would you be doing it?
Because I feel like that'll funnel down into the simple existence is altogether just a selfish thing. You're trying to stay alive, so you're going to do anything, and that'll be selfish. It's a definition thing for me. That's why I have to put it into context if I'm going to call someone selfish, because honestly, then it's all
if
selfish.
It's by definition, if selfish to you means something negative, like you're only caring about yourself, which is immoral in some way.
Right.
That's different than what I'm explaining. I'm describing it as you're doing it because making people feel good or helping people makes you feel good. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing it. If helping people made you feel bad, you wouldn't help people, right?
Of course, but I think that's for anything. I'm not gonna do anything that makes me feel bad, and that's the simple truth. But I'm saying is that it's innate to get that reaction, to make sure that relationships stay positive because of the way that gift giving works. Because otherwise, like, it's kind of weird, because I can't say you can't looking for something that's gonna make you feel good. I think not all of it can be considered selfish, because I think people are always trying to feel good, whether it takes advantage of a person or not. But can it all be defined as selfish? can a person be called selfish because playing Mario Kart makes them feel good? Or because buying a gift for a friend makes them feel good? You see, like...
I think it's just like you were saying, it's just a difference in definition.
Right.
Because all of those things you are doing for yourself to feel good.
Right.
So if it's less of if you can take the morality aspect out of it and just break it down to, are you doing this so that you will feel good in some way, or because you like doing good for people? It's still, you're doing it because you like doing it. That's what I mean by selfish. It's you can trace it back to
the act of acting for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
You can trace all altruism back to doing it for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I guess that makes sense when you're an organism who's trying to stay alive, and staying alive means having relationships, knowing people, having camaraderies. I guess we wouldn't have a choice then, because if we didn't have altruism, this would be the Wild West, man.
Yeah, we wouldn't survive long.
We would not survive long, no.
It reminds me of the argument about free will, whether or not we have free will at all.
Right.
It's a similar topic where it really comes down to definitions and what you're trying to get out of the topic. But free will is a fun one.
You're right. Free will is a fun one, and it does come down to definition for me, because like for me, if free will was taken to its extreme, literally people wouldn't even have people wouldn't get specific with their reason to do something. They would kind of be going around, because then people start defining a free will as, like, if you're being driven by something, then the choices you're making aren't your choice. It's your drive is making your choice, which, like, for example, like if you're hungry, all your choices are going to be based off of your hunger.
Yeah.
In which case, survival, all of your choices will be
like
based off survival.
For instance, you're not choosing to crave chocolate.
Right.
You don't have the choice that you want chocolate. You have the choice whether or not you eat it.
Yeah.
But you didn't choose whether or not to crave it.
Hungry. Yeah.
You can't. That's where my argument is that free will doesn't exist at all, because it's just an illusion, because we can't control our desires. You can control what you do, but you can't control what you want to do. Those things are coming from somewhere inside your subconscious that you don't have a choice.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Luckily, we have the big frontal cortex that helps us retain some of those primitive urges that you just feel like you want.
But you're only retaining those because your brain and your experiences have wired you in such a way that you're the kind of person who's able to retain those. And that's where it starts getting tricky, because it's all down to brain chemistry and psychological experiences throughout your life that have carved your brain into the shape that it's in.
Right.
And so you will always make those choices because that's how your brain works.
Well,
so it's coming from, it's not your decision really.
Oh, then how would a conversation about the consciousness of chimps go? Do they have free will or not?
No.
Well,
in the same way that we don't.
I think nothing is really free willed, so long as the laws of physics exist. We're just physically retained to those, based off of those. But otherwise, I mean, I guess that doesn't really speak to like what the next words out of my mouth are going to be. I still don't know. And if those are predefined to happen, what exactly would define my next idea? I guess it would still be the experiences.
It's just brain chemistry and experiences combined. Like the thing, Sam Harris talks about this in his little mini booklet called Free Will, where he gives Hitler as an example of if you were born in that body with those parents in that society, with those experiences, with that brain chemistry, you would have done precisely the same things. There is no, because it's just a matter of brain chemistry, experiences, and that make up who you are and what desires you have, what decisions you make.
I think then I would argue then if it's going to go that far, then it's going to be atmospheric pressure and everything else.
I would agree. All the way back to the origins of the universe.
Right. Well, I guess that makes sense.
It's all...
If it happened exactly the same, then it's going to be the same thing.
And that's I think that's the philosophy called determinism. if you've ever heard like Daniel Dennett talk about that, or actually Calvin, like what was that one Calvinists, I think they believe that it's kind of a mixture between determinism and compatibilism, which is basically that God created everything and set it all in motion and already knows the outcome of everything because it's all been predetermined, it's sort of the same opinion I have minus the God aspect. Like whatever the origins of the universe at that point in time, the just physics determine everything that's going to happen for the rest of time. And it's already, because everything's moving in a certain direction, it's all determined of where it's all going to land, how it's all going to play out. So it's already been determined by physics. In the same way that there's no free will because of our brain chemistry happens to be the way it is because everything starting from the Big Bang till now happened the way it did.
You know, that the way to prove that would have to be with math. There would have to be a formula that would state, like, if the things go like this at the beginning of the Big Bang, then 14 billion years later, when there's a human living in New York City, because you'll be able to predict that too, that there's going to be in New York City, and you're going to be able to predict where exactly it is. I think now you're just talking about like the theory of everything.
But it's
determinism.
Yeah.
It's the theory of everything.
It is. And it's impossible to predict the future based on determinism because you don't know where things are going to change and alter.
Yeah, because like I'm thinking about how everyone's consciousness makes a messy society. Like it makes it messy. So like maybe it's easier to determine what I'm going to do throughout my lifetime, but it's going to be a little bit harder when you start mixing in different people and like start trying to determine things like a car crash. Would I be able to mathematically predict that based on my relationships and who I know and like how often I like to go to the store and drive around, that I would eventually like be able to predict that I'm going to be in a car crash? And it's like, I think that's really hard because that's someone else's consciousness deciding to have gotten into the car at the wrong place at the wrong time under the wrong circumstances. Mm-hmm. But that affected me. So, but yeah. Obviously there's a lot to talk about when it comes to consciousness and free will. Yeah. I that's definitely a long conversation.
And if you think about it from a religious perspective, it gets even more interesting to debate because like religious people will say that God gives us free will.
Right.
Which that sentence already kind of contradicts itself. Yeah. If he gave it to us, we didn't have the choice to have it. So already you're in a predicament right there, logically.
Yeah, I think free will would also have to be defined because if biology is going to tell us that we're acting upon like things like libido and hunger and aggression and jealousy, which are themselves things that are based on the natural laws, and you can look at chimps to that, then I think if you're going to have a consciousness or free will conversation, it's got to be separate from our biological triggers, which would be defined as our biological triggers. Because otherwise, for example, I think it might be interesting to, like, for example, the idea of art. When you look at like crazy drawings from the inside of people's minds, I think that for me is the interesting part of free will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like where it's coming from.
Yeah, where
from
that free will is coming from, and you're putting it onto a piece of paper. You know what I'm saying? More than like free will of like, you know, like sex and normal things like hunger, which again, like that's almost like a biology conversation rather than a like free will consciousness one.
Yeah. Well, and I brought up to you how that story about Paul McCartney when he was fast asleep and in his dream he dreamed the entire melody for the song Yesterday. start to finish.
Right.
And he woke up and was like,
I'm gonna write that.
I gotta go play this on the piano over and over so I can remember the melody, because there was no way to record it just in your house back then. So he got up and quick ran to the piano and
Make
just
sure you
played
muscle
it.
memory.
He played it like 30
yeah.
times and just sang do 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 do.
Yeah.
And that came from somewhere in his subconscious. He didn't try to sit down and work out that melody. It was just already there inside somewhere, which is really cool. And it begs the question, like, about free will, you know, because he didn't, that was given to him almost.
Right. He didn't force that.
Yeah.
He didn't try to twist that and force it to existence.
It's almost like his subconscious
like a dream,
is a sort of entity that reached out with this gift and was like, take this, Paul McCartney.
I think you're right. The fact that it happened in a dream is really special, because the dreams aren't something you also necessarily force. You don't go, all right, time to go to sleep and time to dream
a song. Yeah. It just happened.
Yeah.
Luckily for all of us, he
That's
realized how important that moment was and got
That's
up.
cool. I think like let's say that that song, it came out of that subconscious place where all of his other songs come from, but like in that case, poured out rather than him accessing it when he's awake. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if that's special. An area, like, and that's probably the wrong word to use, because it's neurons like firing in your brain, so it's almost everywhere. But still, like in a dream, that's insane. It's like, it's quite unbelievable. Yeah.
Quite unbelievable.
Yeah, but I think, that would be the interesting conversation in free will is art, human art, because it's a little harder. Like, for example, you think of free will in a chimp, fine, that's easy. Think of free will in like a wildebeest, easy. But now you think of free will in like a grasshopper, and you start going down to like mites and stuff, and wondering if all brains can use the same definition of free will as human brains are being used. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think they can, though, just because we're
like,
all animals.
If they can force themselves not to eat, or if they're going to not eat and we're the only humans who decide, like, all right, I'm going to put off my hunger for 1 more hour, or I'm going to hold my pee in for like 20 more minutes. I still have to finish this.
Yeah. And that's, for me, the word instincts has a lot of baggage. Like, it's not as simple as people make it out to seem. Like, there's humans who think about things, and then there's animals with instincts.
Right.
I think the things we think about and the actions we take, it could be argued that they are instincts in a way. They're just more sophisticated instincts. It's just because we're processing them at a deeper level that we call it something else. But I think they're doing the same thing, just at a lower cognitive level.
There was this that reminds me of this interview that Carl Sagan and Andrew had when they were talking to this radio host, and they were talking about shadows of forgotten ancestors. And so, they get into like chimp brains and societies, and how the same the politics for chimps are is the same as the politics for humans. And so the host, I remember, was like talking to Andrewian and suggesting that for animals, like, everything they do is a physiological, like a physiological, biological force, in which case, like you said, instinct, which carries a lot of baggage. And so she said, how do you know that everything we do isn't that also? And so because, like you said, it happens at different degrees. So for example, if you just take like technology, for example, it is special, but it's no more different than the tool making and tool using that chimps would do. It's just at a different degree.
I agree.
Yeah. Based on what you need, what you're doing. But I would argue it's the artistic part of humans where technology gets really interesting, not just the laborial use, like a hammer and a wheel and a chisel and stuff, but look, mics to record and hold on to media. Now that's creativity. Like, that's really interesting with humans. And
we're going to take a quick break on that note, and we will be right back. And we're back.
Perfect. Hey, I had a question for you, actually. So this was
headphones.
Oh, that's right. Check. Oh.
So what's your question?
Oh, so I was thinking in Shadows of Forgotten Ancestors, he goes through this chapter where he just lists all the similarities, all of the arguments that people made about why humans were particularly special. And the ones that stand out most of the time are like tool making, which, yes, it is absolutely stunning, like all of the technology we have. But if it just comes down to the definition of using or making technology, just down to the definition, it is something that chimps absolutely do, which makes that by definition not a special thing for us.
Yeah.
But what would you say, which means that altogether in intelligence, they can do all the same things we do, and their political systems are also similar to ours. But I would say, what do you think then is what would make humans a particularly, what's the special thing? Like, look, you're a spatial, astronomical biologist, and you run into Earth. So when you look at all the organisms there, humans are just one in all of the other animals, despite the fact that they have the technology we have now. What would you say the aliens would have placed on as a particularly human characteristic?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think it's a combination of a lot of things. Our ability to, over the culmination of generations and generations, slowly build on each other's tools, rather than, several generations of chimpanzees can all use a rock to break open a coconut, or, fish with a stick or something. But they're not taking that stick and bending it and putting a string on it and like putting a little fishing lure on the end, and which maybe, over generations and generations will happen.
Or that they would learn how to fish in some different way.
Humans can just do that very, very quickly. Like, this microphone wasn't just one guy that sat down and went, I want to create a microphone. It was generations and generations of inventors that were piggybacking off of each other's slowly different types of inventions, and realizing, oh, this could actually record, and keep track of vocals or amplify vocals or whatever it is. And they're just, every person is slowly building onto each past invention.
I agree with you. I think I would use the words, because you mentioned when you build on different people's tools, I would call it more that you're building on the knowledge across time. And so microphones, for example, would be a combination of engineering, chemistry, auditory knowledge, and which are, wouldn't just necessarily come from the same person or the same institution. But not only that, I think it's a combination of the fact that we can accumulate our knowledge across time. So that's going to restrict my context down to when we had books. So obviously you can say we still had really good technology for survival pre-books,
but it wasn't that special.
But it wasn't that special. It was like survival technology, which is what you would consider the chimp technology.
Yeah, I think that's true.
So if we start out with like writing down things,
so it's the ability to record knowledge
across time. And not only that, is the aspect of cooperation with humans, where we have a more I want to use the word civilized, but I also don't want to take away from chimps, because they're much more peaceful in a way than human civilization. They're not doing war and genocide, for example.
Well, sometimes.
Well, yeah, but at the
not at the level.
A pollution scale, chemical warfare. That's terrible stuff.
Yeah.
And those are choices made. But anyway, sorry. What I mean is that we have the level of cooperation where we had things like civil rights, where we all decided to get together and talk about it, versus where if you were in a chimp society, things are going to be like this for a long, long time still.
Yeah.
And hopefully, you want to be a male chimp, not a female chimp, and that would be that's.
And I think
worse.
I think you're right. It's once we created the culmination of or the ability to record and accumulate knowledge across generations.
And I guess agriculture too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are you good? Do you need?
Yeah. No, it's just gonna. I think it's just gonna remind me that I need to calibrate by 6. Yeah, sorry everyone. That's, if you heard that beep, that's my insulin pump. I've been diabetic since I was 8, so I've been diabetic for about 22
It's type
years.
1.
It's type 1
It's
diabetes.
the one you cannot control.
Yeah, yeah, and I use a Medtronic insulin pump plug-in, which is really great when if you know someone who has diabetes and they're doing the shots, when you're watching that, you're just like, man, like filling up that syringe, getting ready to take a shot. I have an insulin pump that works like an external, not perfect pancreas, but it makes my life so much easier because I carry around a lot less. It's a 3-day reservoir, and anyway, just wanted to explain the beep. But,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Luke.
No, it's always been interesting growing up with a diabetic best friend. It makes you really grateful that your pancreas works properly. It really does. I mean,
It brings knowledge that like what kind of diseases people have out there. Like Chandler has his shellfish allergy, and I 50% of the time like bust out in hives when I eat shrimp. But you think about the biology of it. I guess the things aren't perfect. Like things have their origin. This is something that is some like fucking curse or something.
Yeah, and it really humbles you as someone who's not diabetic. Like it's just very humbling to be able to go, this could happen to anyone that's born. Anyone could have a wide slew of issues, and it makes you really grateful for the things that you do have, like the ability to see or hear, the fact that you have both arms and all your fingers, even just the ability to breathe clearly. Like every little thing starts to become, it's good to think about these things at a level and not just take all of those for granted all the time. It makes you grateful just to be alive.
And I would say anyone who's in their 20s, like think about it. Like, look, it's really easy to feel young and healthy, and it's like drinking, no problem. Like I'm ready to go the next day. But that does not last forever because we forget that humans were only really biologically living until like 45. So when you think about like 25, you don't have much left in the prime part. Like we are really lucky to have modern medicine because it's helping us live longer. But you see the higher cases of cancer in people who are living past the 45. And so we're the cancer statistics are up because we're living a lot longer, but like that healthy strong feeling like won't last forever if you're not taking care of it. So like it is easy to eat like crap in your early 20s, super easy. Metabolism is motherfucking firing on all cylinders, but like I said, like that won't last forever.
And I think it's really important if you're young and full of energy, like even if you don't feel it, you have way more energy in your like late 20s and when you're a teenager than you're ever going to have again. Yeah. And so sometimes I'll wake up in the morning, like if I'm sleeping in too long, I'll wake up in like a panic, like my youth is disappearing and I need to get up now and exercise. I need to make music. I need to work on my skills and perfect my career. Well, I have this energy. I'm lucky enough to, have the financial ability to pursue these things now. So I think it's important to take advantage of your youth and your energy to put it into whatever you want your life to become down the road. Because when you're 40 or 50 and you're exhausted and drained from life, not saying that you still won't have some level of energy, but it's just not going to be what it is when you're young. So take advantage of it.
I kind of want to jump in though, because like that kind of makes me think about the millennial issue when it comes to like jobs right now. Because some of us really are lucky enough to have the the financial ability and time to pursue some of these dreams. But it seems like it is getting hard to like be able to, because if you have to have 2 jobs to support yourself, what are you gonna like get rid of sleep so you can like do something you love? Like, how are people supposed to get around that right now in this climate? Like,
yeah. Well, that's what I'm trying to say, though, is when you're 60 and working 2 jobs, you're definitely not going to be able to give up sleep or, other activities, going out and partying with your friends, sitting around playing video games all day long every day, you're not going to be able to, you won't have time to do all of those things and pursue your dreams still, or the energy. When you're younger, you can give up a little bit more sleep. You can give up a little bit more partying, a little bit more relaxation to actually chase after these things because you have the energy. You probably don't have 6 kids, all these other responsibilities weighing down on you, a mortgage that you've gotten into.
I think we're talking about,
payments.
I'll clarify. We will be, this sounds like someone who's still kind of like getting supported by their parents. Because if you're like 21, but you're already in the workforce and you're already trying to pay your own rent and for your own food and for your car, like, that's what I mean, where it's hard to like...
It's hard. It's definitely hard.
It's almost as if you have a very small window to have the time to like for example, in media, if you want to start getting into like being on online and stuff, like, I guess you would want to like jump in early and try to get in somewhere before the 8-hour work week is what you're depending on so you can eat, or 2 jobs.
Yeah.
To pay rent and
eat. There's just an insane amount of reasons why you should definitely start sooner than later. Whatever you're passionate about and you want to do in life, if you're lucky enough to know what that is and have a thing that you're like, I want to pursue this with my life. This is what makes me happy and what I want to do. I want to be doing when I'm 60 for a living or just every day. Start as early as you can and give it your all, because trying to be a jack of all trades and being pretty good at a few things or a lot of things is nice, and you'll be able to dabble in quite a lot of things, but being able to really go all in and master something that you happen to really love doing, I think that's a rare thing that when people do, that's when they feel the most in tune with, who they are and who they're meant to be. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm you really, I'm still thinking like you really got to get lucky enough to have some of that time. And not only that, to have someone to influence you, to like start exposing you to different things early on to see if you can catch on to something that early. Otherwise, like, you're like in your mid-20s by the time you realize you really like science, and it's like, do you have the resources to go to school and be a scientist? And what are you going to do? Are you going to pull out loans? Like, how much is it going to cost? So, like, I think that kind of brings me to UBI, and where UBI would allow more of a creative... it would allow humans to have more of a flexible creativity time for themselves.
And just
and like, I just wanted to mention real quick that UBI would still stimulate the economy, because if somebody, like, just a bad example, someone wanted to do an art project, they still got to buy all that stuff. So they're going to be spending the money.
And just to clarify for anyone listening who doesn't know what UBI means, it's Universal Basic Income.
That's right. Sorry. Universal Basic Income. You might have heard it from Andrew Yang, which was government gives the a United States citizen $1,200 a month. No strings attached.
Everyone over 18.
You
just get a check for $1,200.
You just get a check for $1,200, and this would be in response to taxing the companies who create the AI. That like, if you've seen the self-registers in Walmart lately, you've seen probably more and more. The store near you might have upgraded from like 6 to like 12.
And all of those cashiers are disappearing.
Yeah, and they're disappearing.
Suddenly don't have work anymore.
Exactly, and you have to understand, like, AI, the better it gets, the more of those routine jobs are going to get taken away, which is what exists a lot. But Andrew Yang was emphasizing truck driving jobs, simply because the demographic of the people who work it is such a large portion.
Isn't
of
it
the United
like
States.
One of the most populated jobs in the country? Like, there's more truck drivers than almost anything else.
Yeah, I think it's the one that the most people are getting into in transportation. But we have to understand, like, things like, for example, trucks are going to get better at driving. You can assume AI is going to get safer and more trustworthy than a sober human.
Eventually, it's going to just be safer to have the cars drive themselves.
And so we'll still need to transport things. But again, like you have Elon Musk creating that tube, so you don't know where transportation will go. It might just be used in those underground tubes and just shoot across the United States.
The point is, at some point, a lot of people without any other skills are suddenly going to still need a paycheck somehow, and there's not going to be any jobs for them. So we have to, as a society, sort of agree on a plan for that. And Andrew Yang's plan is, as these jobs slowly disintegrate and a giant part of our population suddenly just doesn't have anything to do, that we still give them the amount of money that they need at a basic level
to stimulate the economy,
just to buy their food, make their house payments, pay for their car.
And again, just a reminder, it's not like these jobs are being taken away by robots who don't need a lunch break, who don't need a paycheck, who don't need health insurance. You have to understand how much money will be saved by these huge companies,
these corporations that are saving all this money, rather than that money just going directly into the pockets of the CEO. Why not tax like crazy on as their profit margins just disappear? Why not just tax more?
He called it
pass that money along to Americans.
Yeah, I think Andrew Yang was calling it a value-added tax, which is something they do. He said in the European countries where you tax, you get that portion of money that they're saving from those tech companies. Because again, it's like, who's gonna lose their job if you're throwing those profits back into the economy? They're robots. Are they gonna strike?
No.
You know what I'm saying?
And a lot of people will argue, well, what will people do all day then? Like when they're not able to work anymore because the robots take all of our jobs, what are people going to do? Everyone's going to be lazy. Like,
I can admit, as a person who makes pretty well, very luckily, to put away money and to be able to like buy myself nice things, I know that a $1,200 paycheck would not stop me from working. I'm also a diabetic and I have crazy bills that still need to be met. But honestly, like for the peace of mind and for anyone like petty theft who would need just a couple dollars for diapers, like I'm talking petty theft. I'm not talking about armed
robbing
robbery.
a gas station for
like a couple chocolate bars. $200. Like you have to understand, $1,200, that would relieve a lot of that desperation.
There won't be any of that anymore, or very, very little. It won't be based on desperation anymore. There won't be crimes of desperation and involving
like
currency.
This person will come in and spend this money on this, and the economy will continue to flow, and the difference will be that he didn't go in and steal this. And honestly, like I would rather that my neighbors have the peace of mind, the financial peace of mind. When I go out, I wouldn't want neighbors who are desperate and need things. I want them to be able to live their life too. That's how I know everyone's doing all right. Like, and yeah, like sure, there's that selfish like nerve in humans that like you got to do well for yourself. But what I'm saying is that like we're not in control of like the flow of the economy a lot of the times. And so what I just want to make sure is that my neighbors are okay, because that ensures that it's going to be safe around me,
And a side effect of that, I think, because personally, I just don't think work is a virtue. I don't think it's something that is virtuous that humans should always be doing, is working, especially since almost all of us are working in jobs, and by us, I mean Americans in particular, maybe the whole world, are working in jobs that they don't enjoy at all. They like loathe going to work. And it's just specifically for that small amount of money that they're making. Right. I don't think that's an important thing in life. And I think if we freed that up, as jobs start to disappear and there just aren't any jobs for people left because robots have them, people that do want to still work, it won't even be really work anymore, because it'll free up you to be able to pursue the things that you are passionate about. Like if you want to be a scientist, it wouldn't be as hard if your basic bills are all covered already. Right. You don't need to work at a McDonald's flipping burgers or driving a truck or whatever it was that you didn't like doing. you can now devote that time and energy and some of those extra resources, if you're saving, into pursuing a passion. Let's say it's being a scientist or a musician or a painter or pottery maker, whatever it is. You can actually afford to be able to go do the thing that makes you happy in life. Right. And people in general, I think, will be so much happier.
I think they'd be better off. Yeah. I mean, mentally, like everything, mental health too, because like this whole, like, I think you're right. It's almost like they take advantage of the fact that humans will get bored. Like when I think about off season here, right about the time that like the season starts to kick off, you're like about ready to go back to work, but simply because you're bored. But what I mean is that your drive doesn't have to be meant to like go do slavery work where like you are in the service industry. Like I think it gets confused. Like if a human needs something to do, like they should be able to find the thing they like to do and go do that. But I bet you it's certainly not going to be sitting around. That shit is hard to do. Yeah. Just sitting around. Yeah. I'm going to want to do something. Like do something.
The difference is you'll be able to do what you want.
What you want, exactly.
And that'll be a really cool society to live in.
I think I would be happy too. I mean, imagine just being born into that utopia, and that those are your choices as a human in this society, is your artistic value. And honestly, you're right. Like it would make so many more scientists come out from all parts of the world. It would just mix up the cultures.
Because there's a lot of people working in these crappy jobs right now that are like, man, I would love to be a microbiologist, but I could never afford to go to school for it, or to, I just have to pay my bills. I've got to make sure all that.
Got to survive.
I got to feed my kids. Whatever it is. So that it would just get rid of that and give you the ability to go pursue those things. And there would still be some lazy people that are unhappy because they're just sitting around doing nothing with their lives.
I think that would also take care of overpopulation. When I think about it, because people look, I'm just saying, under the assumption that UBI was worldwide, that all governments could pull it off. Think about it. Once like people think that they're gonna be all right until their old age, that's gonna limit the children they feel like they need to have, especially in poor countries where you have like 5 kids as a form of social security. Who will take care of me in my old age? It's not like a birth control thing, or they're too ignorant. A lot of places are lacking in sex education, but a lot of those people have to make that choice. Who's going to take care of me when I'm old? And who's going to help take care of this little plot of land that we live off of? We need more hands. And so they're making that choice when they're having more kids. So think about that those people, that couple has enough to like buy food and stuff. They're going to also, I think, control. I mean, a combination of education, but I think that would definitely take the pressure off in the world, in the whole world. There's some insane hoarding that happens.
So we're coming down to where we have to stop the tape again. Do you want to keep going after this at all, or do you want this to just be good for this one?
I think we'll make it good for this one for now. Yeah.
Cool. I think we're going to keep these podcasts to about 40 minutes.
Yeah,
somewhere,
and if
40 minutes.
Yeah, if anyone ran into this and listened to it, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, hopefully we're bringing up some topics that are interesting to you. These are just the things that we like to talk about anyway, and we can talk for days about this sort of thing.
And if you thought that like there's no one around you who can hold a conversation about some of the topics you'll hear us say, or like even some of the opinions, let us know. You know what? We should probably make a link for all of this in case people wanted to email.
That's true. Yeah. Down the road we'll
have that. But yeah, you're not alone in case you liked it.
You're probably listening on YouTube, or I don't know. We'll probably have this on Spotify. Hopefully it's on a radio Apple, too. If it Apple can be, podcasts, like wherever we can upload this. Hopefully you found it somewhere, and thanks for listening. And
thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Peace out.